today's podcast, we have a very special guest. She's an awesome lady that has a long history with horses, and she has a fantastic organization called Wild Horse Rescue Center, and it's in Florida. And I have been there, and it is beautiful. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can let our folks know um, who you are and about your organization.
All righty. Well, thank you first for having us on. I love being able to talk about my rescue. So this gives me an opportunity to talk about Wild Horse Rescue Center. I am Diane DeLano. I am founder, president of the organization. I'm also stall cleaner, horse feeder, rescuer, and all that too. I love it. I live this life every day. So I got involved with wild horses about 32 years ago. Now, I knew about them in 1975. I saw my first tame wild horse, and I just always wanted one. And I didn't get one until about 1989 was when I got my first one. And then I jumped right on board becoming a volunteer with the Bureau of Land Management. 6 months after the first horse, I was volunteering at the adoptions, and I got very involved with the Bureau of Land Management. In 1998, I became a volunteer compliance officer for the Bureau of Land Management. They had 20 people in the United States get certified, and I was one of those 20. We used to help the Bureau all the time with compliance checks and going and picking up horses. I've gotten away from the Bureau a little because since 2004, they did a lot of changes with the sale authority, and it's just keeps changing, not for the benefit of the horses. So I still work with some of the Bureau people. I still get untitled Mustangs here. I still adopt Mustangs. I 45 of my 52 horses are Mustangs here. So obviously we are primarily a wild horse rescue center. But a lot of the ways they treat the wild horses has really made a big change in the breed of the American Mustang. I find them, the way they castrate now is really difficult to get geldings to allow you to handle their tail and their back end because they castrate without any, they immobilize the horse, but they do not do anything for pain, and the horse knows what they're doing. All my geldings that I get now, you have to work through kicking of the back end, being able to touch the back end. And that was something that was never, ever a problem. But we used to get stallions or mares. So our center is run on donations. We do fundraisers. We have an international program that people come and stay with us. COVID about killed that program. I mean, it was dead for 2 years completely. Due to regulations and changes, our program also changed from 12 people to 6 people. So we have a beautiful center. We have horses, we have burros. So we do have 2 wild burros that are tame now. We're getting 3 donkeys on Wednesday. So we do get quite a few donkeys come into our center as well. And we do have some other breeds of horses. We also have Passos, quarters, thoroughbreds, gypsies. They come in as well as Shetland ponies and miniatures. But the most of the stuff that we have, of course, I do try to stick to the wild horses because there's really not a whole lot of places for them, especially here on the East Coast. So I know, Tawny, you guys end up with quite a few just
We
through the
do.
auction
We
stuff.
do. We do get a lot that we intercept out of the slaughter pipeline. And it's really sad how many wild horses end up in the slaughterhouse. And I think people have no clue. A lot of people think, oh, slaughterhouses were shut down. All the horses are living out there happy. There's no slaughterhouses, but they're being exported. And then I think for people, when they realize that Mustangs are also being exported, it's a real awakening for them. And
Right. And honestly, some of the horses disappear right from the holding corrals, and that's
yeah,
illegal, by the way. But there are activists out there that photograph our wild horses out in the range, and they'll actually go to the holding center that those particular horses are supposed to be at, and they can't find them. And, it takes process when the horses go to those centers. they're usually there for at least a month or two or three. It's not like they get in one day and they go the next. So when those people go there, those horses are nowhere to be found, and they just leave.
Yeah, no, it's
That-
it's horrible. And I know like sometimes like even after they hold them, they'll send them to some rancher that's holding them and he's shipping them to slaughter and taking government money. And it's just like it's
yeah.
so infuriating of what's happening to America's horses and all the roundups and
Yes, it is, because they really are such a gentle soul. They really are. When you get them and can gentle them correctly, they really just want to please. I have some really great Mustangs that are here, and then I have some really difficult Mustangs. And you guys even took in
Mhm.
four. Did you adopt out
Yeah,
all four? You
yeah,
still, did
like
Honey ever get adopted? I think that was the last of
yeah.
the four to get.
And the one horse, I did not realize that you when you sent him up the paint, his
Yes.
name, what was his name?
We called him, oh my goodness,
Oh
what's
dear,
my
we're both we okay, so this is the disclaimer for rescuers. We see a lot of horses and there's
yes.
a lot of names and we can't always remember everything. But the beautiful paint horse,
Yes, yes.
um, after he came here, I was like, wait a minute, he was in our episode when we were at your place filming and he got his feet trimmed there. And yeah,
Right.
he got such a wonderful home. But yeah, no, it all clicked together once I was like, that's the same horse.
Well,
So
he had, but I think we sedated him.
yeah,
He had to
yeah,
be,
he was
I
laid
think,
down for the
yeah.
procedure.
And we could handle him some, and then sometimes you couldn't handle him. He just didn't have a real solid foundation.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
now that he's adopted, and I saw
Yeah.
the gentleman that got him, when he has that one-on-one, they can really blossom and trust. With us having so many horses, just like you guys, you don't get sometimes to put that one-on-one every single day with that horse. You're lucky to have multiple trainers.
Mhm.
Alicia works for me just one day a week now, my vice president. And so I'm doing all this stuff. I've had some really great ladies come in I had from Switzerland and Germany. And we did a couple of like healing stuff with Reiki, Linda Tellington, touch and stuff like that. So we do a lot of that as well, trying to emotionally heal some of these horses.
And
But
I think that's where it really comes down to the importance of adoption. I think there's some people are like, "Oh, the rescue's got them, we're good." No, like we got them, we're caring for them, but we desperately need people to step forward to take these horses because that one-on-one care that an adopter can give a horse is different than what a shelter can provide for a horse.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, because we provide the care and we
Mhm.
love our horses, and I have volunteers and I have workers, and we cater to them. But when somebody owns that horse, just like when they get a rescue dog and it comes into your home and your family, it is the difference. And the people can commit a whole lot more time to that one animal.
Yeah, and
So,
that's where you really see them just blossom. And so that's where like if you're interested in adopting a horse and you're in Florida, Diane's
mhm.
got amazing horses and your facility is really just beautiful.
Well, thank you. I do like my facility.
Yes, you have a beautiful facility and you're actually sitting in your museum right now. Um
Right. Yep.
and
So, and I mean, the property is beautiful with those oak trees. And we had changed out since you guys were here our panels. We
okay.
went and I sold, which we had a great sale day, and
No.
I sold a bunch of my other panels, which were still in good working shape. And we had some that weren't great, but most everything was still good round pens and everything. So we sold all that, and we bought the Florida All American 6 foot high, 12 foot heavy duty panels. So all my corrals, my round pen, my 60 foot, my 40 foot, my alleyway, all that is
Wow.
great.
What a
So that was
blessing.
an addition. We also added another roof.
Okay.
Um, so we're 120 feet long, our barn, but then
Okay.
we added another 36 by 36. So over the wild horses, they have more coverage over more stalls
Oh,
or
very
path.
nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
so we're always improving.
And
You have,
as you're improving, I know you've had some pretty significant storm damage that has
yeah.
come through as well.
Yes, we had to put a new roof, 70 feet of roof on there. We had a tree just come down, got hit by lightning. We just had to
Oh,
take that down, so hopefully we're kind of out of the hurricane area because we're in the center of the state. But the tornadoes, they are what can still hit us. So
yeah.
we're out of the damage with hurricanes, really, because by the time it gets to us, we don't have the high winds of a hurricane like on the coast. So we do love our center area. Being in Sumter County, we're in the villages. I got two dogs that think they can just play here. Here, I'll just hold one.
Aw, so adorable.
My
They're like,
dog,
let's play.
my dogs
Aw.
are always wanting to be with me. I left the door open because if not, they would be knocking
Oh,
and
yes.
scratching.
They'd be like, hello, hello.
Yes.
Um, since you're on your phone, do you think you could kind of walk people through like your museum area? I know when I was there, it was just so amazingly fascinating.
Oh, well, let's see.
Um,
So do I face it
uh,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah, that's
Okay.
perfect. Yeah, so we can
So
see your amazing things that you've saved over the years.
So right here, I don't know if you can see our magazines.
Uh-huh.
We're in magazines all over the world because of our program. This one was from it was in Ireland in the plane. I thought that was so cool. We even got in the airplanes that's behind the seat.
Wow.
Um, well, of course, we have our board area, and that's just some different cases of horses. That's very typical of what you guys, as well as any rescue, gets is a lot of unwanted, uncared for, starved horses, which is absolutely horrible. That not only are they physically and mentally abused by people. We have three little books that were made by kids for the school, which was really cute. So we have kids that do adore our rescue and horses out here as well. We have over here, this was my dream boards.
Oh,
This board,
I remember that. Aw,
yeah,
there
I
it is.
did these boards in 98. This was my center that I wanted to build. I wanted to have a training center for wild horses, a learning education, and an adoption center. So we got a very small one. This was a bigger scale idea, but anyhow.
Aw.
So let's see. I got the Four Cs Award. That was in 2004. And then I also got, oops, I moved slow. That one up there, which is Making a Difference Award. So, like I said, I was very involved with the Bureau of Land Management, and it meant everything to me to save and help these wild horses, and it still does. I just don't get politically too involved anymore because I just can't.
Yeah.
I got to focus on the rescue. And if I don't focus on the rescue and if I try running everywhere else, it's very hard because I do have to be here.
Yeah.
The rescue takes all your time. And we are a small organization. We have, different certificates and awards. We thank people for coming here. Of course, we sell hats and shirts and CDs and books. Over here is kind of my favorite area. And so let me see. This is about Wild Horse Annie.
Mm. She's such an
So
amazing woman.
I don't know if the glare, but if you can see that picture right there, that is from 1956. That's actually one of Wild Horse Annie's actual photos. That picture on the back of that photo is 1971 congressional hearing for the bill to be passed for the wild horse to save the American wild horses. So that picture was given to us 2 years ago as a gift. And so it sits in here with Wild Horse Annie. That movie, The Misfits, was made about kind of Wild Horse Annie with the horses being rounded up. I do believe in that movie is footage that was actual footage.
That's amazing.
Um, I have books. I've been collecting books my entire life. Are you kidding? I have every kind of wild horse book. There's one from the prisons. I mean, old books, people writing stories about them, tons of wild horse books. And then down here, I've been involved with the Bureau for so long. This is my 32 years of buttons and cards and brochures and all the different information that they have given over the 32 years I've been involved. And then further down, we have, healing powers with horses. Most of those books down there are about how horses help us to heal. Horses at one time were just a vehicle. People just thought of them as, something that they worked with or rode. Today's horses are extremely healing. So many people. Right now, we have a Mustang maybe going to a human trafficking therapy center.
Wow.
They work with kids from 10 to 30.
Mm.
And Orlando, Florida is the third place in the nation for human trafficking.
Wow.
So they're looking at one of our little Mustangs to join them. So, in this cabinet, from the 1950s, wild horses were everything from TV lamps, Avon, Jim Beam. They all made wild horses. Down here in the second cabinet, you have Fury. Fury was supposed to be a Mustang. The Long Ranger's horse, Silver, was supposed to be a Mustang. I did that bowl in seventh grade. I
Wow.
loved wild horses even back then when I was
Wow.
13. Jewelry, everything with wild horses, books about wild horses. That Will James is 1929. Zane Grey wrote so many stories about wild horses. And then there again, I still have more wild horse books. So then we have this area, and this is about the horse itself. You can see we got the visible horse
Mm-hmm.
in here. Is kind of cool because I show people worms. Those are actual worms from horses. We have a collection of teeth so they can see a big tooth or a cap. We have this tail. We just cut this off of a horse. Oh my
Oh
God,
yeah.
he's a little pony. That tail weighs a ton. And
It's
then
horrible when
dryers.
they get so matted like that. And we're like, oh, you just save it. And there's sometimes we can, but when they're like that, like you can't, like
Yeah,
they are
you can't
so
save
matted.
this one.
You just gotta have
Yeah,
to cut it off.
yeah. On a small knot, you can. We could have
Yeah.
maybe had saved this one, but I doubt it because even this is just. I
Yeah.
mean, where do you even? And we're talking wild horses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, these aren't like
Sure.
your, grandma's tame horse.
Go
No,
stand behind
this
it for
one.
an hour.
Matter of fact, when I took that tail off of Savior, he was an Indian Nation horse, and I had him in the squeeze, and I used a cane, and I brought his tail over to me, and I had to cut all that, and he was just
Wow.
like, "Okay, I've had enough." And I said, "Listen, you'll love it. You'll love it when I'm done."
Oh, I'm
You
sure he
know,
was happy to run out of that chute and be like, whoo, my tail.
Yes, he had his tail flagging. And then we do the reading program with first, fourth, and fifth grade. So we stay doing that with the schools, and we use the Black Stallion by Walter Farley. And so that's our reading area over there.
Oh, I think I
So
had the book, that Little Black Pony book. I think I had that when I was a kid.
yes, that's a great book. It's been around since 1962 and 1965. The first book was written to Steve, and the second book was written to Tim Farley.
Oh,
So, and it says it in the book. It says dedicated. So, those books were written way back then. Back in the 60s. The Black Stallion itself was originally written in 1942. So it's
wow.
pretty amazing that it's still a read and popular book to read.
Yeah, I know it is. I mean, we just kind of went through like memory lane for you. And
Yes,
the shift of horses in our culture is not what it used to be. Like it used to be all, the lamps and, like all these things and wild horses and it's really sad to see horses kind of falling to the side.
absolutely. Yeah. Like they're not even, I mean, 100 years ago, we were still using horses.
Hmm.
I mean, people can't even, that's crazy. How many years horses were our vehicles and everything. And then just in 100 years, people have completely just thrown them under the bus. They forgot all about them, you
Yeah.
know,
And that's where I
and
feel
they
like they need federal protection because, these horses helped build our country.
Yep.
And to just turn them aside is just, it's beyond me. Like they're part of our culture. They're our heritage. They help build our country, and the respect they're getting is not great.
Well, and the sad thing is this, it's mismanagement. So they really need to have animal behaviorists, wild horse behaviors, people that understand wild horses, that really understand a species. They should take advice from those people because they've been trying to give them advice to the Bureau, but then they don't take it. And that's sad.
That is
They just
so
killed 26
frustrating.
they just killed 26 horses like over the past month with that last roundup.
Or yeah,
So
where they're doing all these roundups and they're not I think that's a really frustrating point, is like the people who are making these decisions are so clueless when it actually comes down to horses.
right.
And like I was in Washington, D.C. I'm actually going to be there again here. And one of the laws we were trying to work is the helicopter roundups of,
Okay.
hiring local ranchers to do the roundups instead of
Hmm.
using aircraft. Because there's so many accidents that happen to these horses, but it's just part of what happens. But
Well,
going up to
in
Washington, D.C. and talking to these policymakers and decision makers up there, it was really eye-opening to me because I'm like, these are the people that can make all the change happen, and they're
right.
completely clueless about
Yeah.
horses. Like, I mean, some of them have had horses, or they grew up with horses or something, but when it comes down to the reality of the topics that are at hand for some of these legislations that could make a significant difference,
Hmm.
this one person I was talking to, she's like, I've never understood it until you explained it to me, and now I know why it's important. I'm just like,
Yeah. Well, because they have no clue.
yeah.
And is also, Tawny, in Western Horseman in 2001, Temple Grandin did a study. She watched the Bureau out at Wyoming. My phone keeps putting stuff on it.
Oh, you're
They,
I don't see it on my end, so you're good.
okay, okay, good. You don't see
Yeah.
it because, yeah,
No, I
going
see your
to,
thumb come up though.
I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
So in that article, Temple Grandin observed the Bureau of Land Management rounding up horses in Wyoming. And then she wrote down the speed of the horses coming in, running into the panels, flip overs, rear ups, fighting, head hitting the gates. She had all this list. And then they waited a week and she had an independent helicopter, and her horses were brought in at a walk and occasionally a trot, and she had 0, 0, 0. And so she showed that if you would slow it down, you would have less injuries.
Hmm.
And 2001. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's how long it's been out there. So
Yeah.
when you go to DC, I'll have to shoot you that article so you can
Yeah. Send it
show
to me.
proof that even Temple Grandin did a study to show them that this you could slow it down and you would have not the damage that you have.
Yeah. 'Cause
But
there's so much damage. I mean, horses breaking their legs and flipping over, and I mean, it's just the list goes on, and I'm sure you've seen so much horrificness in your time. And I think you have an interesting perspective, because a lot of people that get involved in wild horses, they've never had the Bureau of Land Management side. And
right,
like I adopted when I was 10. My mom, like I had ponies and stuff, but my mom, like we always had horses. We grew up with horses, but when I was 10, we adopted a BLM horse from the holding corrals. And I remember like the inspector coming out after the year in to make sure we were taking care of her. And I'm like, oh dear, I hope they think that we're okay. And like,
right,
am I gonna get the title for my horse? And he came out, he looked her over, like, oh yeah, and you've done such a great job training her. And like it was great to have that information from them. But
right.
like I feel like they actually cared back then.
They
And
did.
and now I know like there's people that are adopting horses or donkeys just to see like what does the BLM do, and like the BLM does nothing, like
No,
it's
no. They used
nothing.
us back in '98, like I said, when we were became compliance volunteers, they actually did use us back then, and we did.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those horses on my board behind me were from compliance checks that I went and did for them,
Yeah.
and the horses were in horrible, horrible condition.
Mhm.
And Bureau did not stockade like they do until 2004 when they started doing massive roundups, and
It
then they
started
started
shifting.
doing, yes, it changed. And
Mm.
then the thing with the amount of roundups, my first Mustangs I got back in the early days were 6 weeks from the range. They
Yeah.
were so easy to work with. They still had curiosity. They had not been moved around a lot. You know, they were rounded up, they were freeze ran, they were vaccinated, and they were shipped out to adoptions.
Yeah.
They were easy to work with.
Mhm.
Today, a lot of the stuff I get has been in holding pens for years.
And they're
Grew up
terrified.
in it,
Yeah.
and it makes them really, really tough. When they do not have the herd to teach them, that's another big problem. By you see on these roundups, they take the babies right from their mothers. They don't
Mhm.
even know who the mother is because they didn't care. They rounded them up and they take the babies. It is so important for horses long term, their natural skills to be raised with a herd, with a mother in the wild. They have their father, their aunts, and everybody. What I see when they're not raised in this environment is that they're like punks. They're a bit rude. They
Mhm.
don't know boundaries. They don't have compassion for their offspring. Like if you have a young filly that was taken too young, she doesn't know how to be a compassionate mother. And there's a lot of damage that is actually done. And I've seen a huge change. And for me, you know, I've been involved for 32, 33 years or more. So I did see it when it was just horses coming from the range
Yeah.
and in what they do now. These horses that are offered for sale and gilded at, you know, 19, 20 years old is absolutely devastating for
It,
this animal.
it is horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And
So,
um I think, like a lot of people, they've never had the opportunity like we've had to interact with wild horses. And in Nevada, we were out there during the season with you all. We were visiting
oh,
KT with rocking KT Equine Rescue. And there was this herd of Mustangs. They'd been there as long as I can remember. I mean, I probably first saw them when I was 10. And they'd always be in this area. And when we were out filming, I'm like, I want to go see those horses.
mhm,
And so we ended up driving up there. And you can literally you can sit there, and as they're grazing around, like they're not scared to death of you. They're just
right,
like, oh, you know what? Like there's natural curiosity. And when you said that natural curiosity has just been stripped from them, it's so true, because I've never seen a Mustang that's come into our shelter with that natural curiosity that you
yeah,
see out in the range. Um,
right,
and I remember when I adopted a horse when I was 10 from the BLM, they didn't have a chute system to do their feet or anything. And there was actually now it's called horse tripping. And
mhm,
they had, guys with lassos, and they were running around, and it would rope their legs and throw them on the ground, and stretch them out and trim their feet. And it's all that stuff is just, it's changing how
right,
horses interact. But I think, like you're saying, like they're pulling these babies away. Like most horses, like even the ones that we get, the young horses that we get, they've been with their parents for a while, or their moms for a while. They know how to interact as being a horse, and they have, some discipline that their mom has taught them, or other horses. But just pulling a
right,
bunch of babies, you're almost making like um orphan foals that
right.
are
You are
and
absolutely
orphan foals. You can't, I mean, they're challenging, but you're just taking droves of and making orphan foals that don't have any guidance.
right. And they put the foals with the foals. And so if they're, say, 6 months or whatever, living with these other foals, it really is detrimental to how their emotions are.
Yeah.
Um, Point on what you're talking about the farrier. Kerry Frost is, I have one of his horses. He still works for the BLM out in Utah. Carrie had been working with the Bureau when they used to do that, when they used to head and heel. And he said that the respiratory rate on that horse, they would freeze brand them, vaccinate them, do their feet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Was better than the squeeze system,
Yeah.
which you,
Interesting.
because once they put the horse down and they did what they did, they handled it and the horse was able to survive and get up.
Hmm.
The system has them standing upright to do the stuff. So they're squeezed.
Yeah.
So they're seeing everything you're doing and
Hmm.
they can't move, but they're standing upright.
Yeah.
And then tilt you over for the feet. They, their feet are tied, all four of them, and then they trim them. But the horses, it's a different way. I
Yeah.
mean, they can tons of them that way. That's why they went to the squeeze like what you have, because quite honestly, you could work a lot easier. Could you imagine if you had to rope, you and Jason had to rope the horses, do all that?
Yeah.
I can see why they went that way, but that way also causes a lot of issues.
Yeah. There's stress on both ways. I remember like as a kid, we lived a couple hours away from the BM corrals, but we would go there and
Hmm.
there were always those guys trimming horses. Like anytime you could go sit and they had a little bleacher where people could
Yeah,
sit and watch, and that's just what they did. That was their full-time job is trimming horses.
right.
Um, so tell us a little bit about your program that you had for insurance. We kind of mentioned it and it kind of died with COVID, but I think it was such an impressive program prior to COVID, because it was an international internship program and it was funding your organization.
Yes, it was. So in 2012, I was introduced to Abraham Foundation out of New York City, introduced me to two companies to help me. They were giving me a hand up. That's how they felt that if they could offer this to some of the nonprofits. The reason my nonprofit was chosen was because I'm wild horse conservational type work. So these programs generally are either helping elephants, sea turtles, wild horses, rainforests. They're doing something to help the environment or the animals of that environment. So in 2012, we started with two companies, and you could be 16 and up because a lot of the kids in Europe and other countries, they travel after high school or summer break. So we started from 16 and up. And the program at first, from 2012 to 2014, was starting out. We had two companies. By 2014, all of a sudden, we had three more companies. We had five companies, and the bookings were coming in. We ended up purchasing a bigger property because we needed a house. We needed more room. And that's where we could have 12 to 14 people a week. We had 160 people a year coming out to our center every week, 365 days a year, 52 weeks a year. We had people. We would have 12 people, 7 people. I mean, we always had people. We had a small school bus because where are you going to go with, 12 to 14 people? You got to transport them all at the same time. So we expanded to that. We were able to sell that property and buy this property because of my international program. And then in March of 2020, I had 11 people here. That's all we could have at this house because the rooms were a little bit smaller. So we had 11 people here and they all had to leave. We
Hmm.
had $100 worth of bookings on the books already coming for the rest of the year. All of that stopped. Everything, boom. 3 weeks time, we had nobody. So March of 2020, we put a thing out, and that's where we ended up. That sign that's on my back wall over there has all these names. Oh my God, from March until September, those people stepped in because we didn't know what we were going to do. Our funding went to zero. I
Yeah.
mean, you have donors and you have stuff like that, but I'm talking, we banked on that money. We
Yeah.
knew it was,
That
our
was
people
your
were,
that was
yeah,
your program was kind of just like focused on that and funded through that for so long.
yep. Was able to make our payments on stuff. We were able to purchase stuff. And so when that happened, September, we had to apply for SBA loans, which really stinks because listen, you don't want big loans.
Mm-mm.
Nonprofits don't want big loans. Okay. We have two loans from them and it is terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
So it took 2 years for the borders to open. And then, of course, within that 2 years, there was like all these restrictions. So we got rid of all the bunk beds, couldn't have people sleeping over people, couldn't have so many people to one room. So we made new cabins, new lodging. We have 2 single rooms and 2 double rooms. And so we can have 6. I've had as many as 4, but I've never had a total of 6. We
Wow.
also lost, so we were up to 9 companies. In 2020, we had 9 companies and also ourselves. So we had 10 of us that you could book through. We lost 5 companies that went under.
Mm.
So we were 5 companies. And then we've lost 2 more companies since because they just don't want to do USA. It's just there's too many regulations, too many costs in America. It's easier to go to some of the cheaper countries. So we have like, what does that leave me with? 3 companies. That's it.
Yeah. Wow. You're still having
So,
people come in. It's just on a much smaller basis now. So
yep,
that's
yep.
challenging.
We have a lady coming in next week for a month. I have people now booked all the way till the summer, but
Okay.
like I have 2 people in April, but one person like
Yeah.
from now until July, I have people coming. And then I have people coming after September. I have some people in October and November booking. We are not doing July and August anymore
Hmm.
because not I cannot predict the weather.
Yeah.
I can tell you that it rains
Hmm.
almost every week in Florida, and we do have hurricanes. Not that we are so affected, but the state itself is
Yeah.
affected. So we just said, for July and August, that'll be our downtime. And you really can't ride, and it's hard to train horses. It is very, very humid here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow. Well, and I think, of all those people that got to come through your organization, like the amount of knowledge they learned from you and they took back across the world and spread that knowledge, I think that's so key. And it's sad the program's not going like it was, but you
right.
still, like, you mentored people for so long and was able to help them become advocates for these beautiful
Yep.
animals. And
Yep.
that's a huge accomplishment.
And actually, we just had a lovely lady last summer. She was here for 6 weeks from France. And then she went to New Zealand and she's had reached out to me on WhatsApp and said, "Thank you so much for showing me stuff because it's been helpful here showing them." So
Mhm.
she's like we work with rope halters and we had the horse drop its head when we put the halter on. The way we lunge, we ask. So the horse always knows what we're asking and just different little things that we do. We also have slack in the line. Don't hold your horse so tight. And so she wrote us a really nice thank you and how she was able to help and inspire others with it. So yes, so we have our training, and I have lovely people all over the world. I still talk to them all the time on our Facebook. I see people from Sweden, Norway, France, Belgium, Italy, Spain, Canada. I have people from all over the world that we speak to on a regular basis on Facebook and Instagram. So
Yes.
it's great to see them,
One
and
big family.
yeah,
Like,
a
you
lot
created this huge family.
of those girls have gotten married and they're having their children and I see
Aw.
so. And then when I get horses back, like we just got Remy and Seminole back, a bunch jumped on and said, "Oh, Remy, Seminole,"
Yeah.
they
Aw.
seen 5 years ago. So it is a great program. Our program, I think, is headed a little different. We really want to get into a lot more holistic. We're reaching out to Germany, to the Mustang Extreme Makeover organization over there, trying to get some of the German trainers and some of the people coming here. We just had Linda Tellington, trainer, come from her. I had Linda Tellington here for a night. That
Wow.
was really
Nice.
I'm going to her clinic here in April. And so we do like the holistic. So we're going to try to gear a little bit more with more holistic. We had a lady from Switzerland and a lady from Germany just recently. Both of them were wonderful to have
Wow.
them they're having them work on Mustangs because they had never ever been with a Mustang,
Yeah.
and that
And they're
dream.
different.
Oh, yeah, that was a dream of both of those ladies to be around Mustangs. And so we have some really super gentle, kind Mustangs, and then we have wild ones, and the wild ones really, really inspired their hearts. They loved working with the wild ones, and they were both only here a week each. So yes, so we have, so our program is still kind of there, and people can still book.
Yeah.
You can book here even in the States, So
Mhm.
we have lodging and stuff. So
So if
uh,
somebody's watching this and they're like, I would love to come there and get immersed in wild horses, they could do that.
yes, they can. They can stay a week. I got a lady coming from California, so she's coming in for a month. So see, so you got
Oh,
people coming in States as well.
and what's the best way for them to find out about those opportunities?
They, they can email me and I'll send it to my booking team. They're
Okay.
at visits@rescuecenter.org. So Rebecca and Brianna do all that. I just send it on.
So
Um,
if they
they,
go to your website, if
yeah,
they go to your website, they'll be able to contact you off of there and find
yep,
out. I suppose they could message off of Facebook as well,
yep,
and get the information.
yep. And I would give them the visits at wildhorserescuecenter.org, and they can talk to Rebecca and them about dates and stuff. We do a Zoom meeting with the people so that we can talk to each other, and they can ask me personal questions about the center and about what they're doing. So we started that after COVID. That was a good way to, since Zoom was such a big thing with
Yeah.
COVID. We didn't even have that before.
I know.
So, you know,
It changes.
so when that became something that we could use, we're like, oh well, we're going to use that talking to the
Mhm.
people because that
Yeah.
gives. And quite honestly, we told the people last year about July, August, and even September.
Mhm.
And when they did come, we had complaint like it's so hot, and and
Yes. Mhm.
it is. It is.
It's
That's why
Florida. It's Florida.
we actually had to take a break from like 11 to 4. That's 5 hours in the middle of the day
Just
because
couldn't do
it's
anything.
so hot or the storms are there
Yeah.
either.
Mm.
But I mean, we'd work from the morning to that, and then you have the evenings until 8:39, which evenings are beautiful here in Florida. So
Yeah,
if
no,
it's
I know when we came to your facility, it was just gorgeous. And you can watch that episode. There'll be a link in the description of this podcast. But your facility and your horse is just all just so peaceful and gorgeous. Do you allow visitors to come? Do you have certain days?
Nope, we still do visitors. Matter of fact, I have a group of 15 people coming next Wednesday. Now that when we have that big of a group, I have some of my local volunteers and we do like a grooming station, a round pen station, a gentling. So when I walk them around, they stop and talk to some of the
The different
volunteers.
stations.
But we can do individual. If you come as an individual or with your family, I'll just walk you around. It takes about an hour, hour and a half. I ask them if they want to bring carrots. All of our animals love carrots. And so we walk around and I tell the stories. You come in the education building. We have the coffee cafe for, matter of fact, the other day I had Saturday, it was raining. It was like only 50, but it's so cold in Florida when it's like 50. It's fucking cold. So I had 3 ladies come to look at some Mustangs, and matter of fact, they're the ones that are looking to come back for the horse for human trafficking.
Okay.
A sweet little 3-year-old Gildan, and we had hot chocolate and hot cider. So we keep that in our cafe as well, not only coffee and tea. So the girls were very happy to have a nice hot drink while we drove around in the RTV and showed them the horse.
Your organization is the first organization I've ever been to that's a horse rescue that has its own little coffee shop there. Pretty special.
I did that. I always drank coffee with my father. We always took a coffee break. So in honor of my dad, who was 94 when he passed, I made a coffee cafe.
There
And so we
you go.
chips, I have pizzas in the freezer. You have, nuts and chocolate and cakes and
All
whatever I
goodies.
want. I'm
Yeah.
such a thrifty person. I can't stand it. So when I go shopping to Publix or Winn Dixie and it's buy one, get one, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll, double up on stuff. So
Awesome. Well, you have such a great facility, and
thank you.
for anyone, like, you're pretty close to, is it Disneyland down there? Like, if
I'm
somebody,
40 from
yeah,
Orlando.
yeah. So if you're in Orlando visiting or whatnot, schedule a visit to go to Wild Horse Rescue Center so you can see the fantastic work Diane's doing. And Diane, how can people find your social media pages? Like, if they're watching this, they're like, I want to find out more, where do they go and what do they do?
Well, we have Wild Horse Rescue Center page for Facebook, Instagram. We had TikTok, but we don't go on that much because I don't know. I'm up and down about TikTok. So
A
we
lot of
just
people are on there. I am not a TikTok person myself. I'm like, I don't know what to do on there, but yeah, there are people like, so they can find you on there, and I'll put the links in the description of this video so people can find you. And I really hope that you get some more visitors down there, and you just have such a fantastic facility and so much knowledge with wild horses and history. It's just always a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope that people will learn more about your organization and the incredible work that you're doing.
well, thank you. We love it. We love these horses, and like I said, any age can help. Being in the villages, we have people 55 and up, and they love it. I had Robin and Penny here this morning. Robin, after she did some cleaning and stuff, and Penny just does waters, so she doesn't lift anything. We dump them for her, and she fills the waters. So we work with everybody. If you don't have ability to lift, that's okay. You can do other stuff. Filling water takes time.
Yeah.
And but Robin groomed several of the horses, and it gives her just that time just to be with the different animals. Same thing with Deb and Marilyn and Betty. They have certain horses they like. So every week when they come out, those particular horses that are the ones that they choose to be with get to be loved on, groomed, and a little special care.
Nice.
So,
Well,
yeah.
if you're in the Orlando area,
Yep.
schedule a visit. And Diane, I just really want to appreciate and thank you for doing this podcast with me. I so enjoyed being at your facility and getting to know you more. And during the whole boot camp, I know you had to go back and forth because you had so many interns and all these things, but it's been a real privilege to speak with you again, and just keep up the fantastic work you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, this is a 24/7 days a week. I run the center, but this has been my passion all my life. So it's not work. I might put in 18 hours a day at certain times, but I love it. And we just took 4 horses to sanctuary the other day. We left here at 11. We didn't get back till 9 at night. And it was great. And it was wonderful giving those horses an opportunity to have a pasture. We have 3 more going. So 7 of my horses get to go to a 30-acre pasture. It's not super big, but 30 acres for 7 horses is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And it's a facility, and they're willing to put the round rolls out and the alfalfa, and they have plenty of water and grass. So I was blessed to have them want to have some of our horses. So we can foster horses. So people also, if they want to help out, we've got a lady coming next week to look at 2 of the minis that we have in. She might foster and help them get better ready for adoption. So we do that as well. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Diane.
you.
I really appreciate this, and I hope folks go and check you out and follow the amazing work that you're doing.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you, Tawny. Have a good day. Bye bye.